Welcome to Deep Thoughts, a podcast designed to take you on an introspective journey into the mindsets and strategies that fuel personal growth. In every episode, we'll explore the intersection of psychology, spirituality, and real-world tactics, guiding you through powerful methods to elevate your health, wealth, relationships, and overall well-being. From deep dives into transformative habits and mindsets to candid discussions about the challenges we face in today's fast-paced world, Deep Thoughts is here to remind you of the untapped potential that lies within. If you're ready to disconnect from the distractions and connect with the tools and insights needed to create lasting change, this show is your sanctuary for self-discovery and empowerment. Tune in, reflect, and take action towards a more vibrant and fulfilling life.
Okay. Have you ever had that feeling, like when you're so sure something's going to go a certain way, but then bam, reality just hits you with a totally different ending? Yeah, it's like that expectation versus reality thing, like a game we're all kind of playing. So today, we're going deep on how it all works and hopefully how to, win. We've got personal stories, some expert advice, and even, a little psychology sprinkled in.
Yeah, what's super interesting about this whole thing is it's not just about avoiding disappointment, It's about understanding how our minds actually create those expectations in the first place. And trust me, the way our brains do it, it's not always logical.
So, okay, let's unpack this. What are expectations, really? Besides those little tiny dream bubbles that life loves to just pop.
You can think of them as your brain's predictions about what's going to happen. It's always trying to make sense of everything, right? So it uses past experiences, it uses social cues, even your deepest desires to create these, I guess you could call them previews of how things should be.
Oh, okay. So is it if I always have, bad luck with online dating, I'm basically going into every first date expecting it to be a disaster, even if this new person seems amazing?
Exactly. Your past is a super powerful teacher, even if it's, teaching you the wrong lessons. But there's more to it. Think about all the perfect lives you see on social media, those curated feeds, I think they're called. They can make even the most level-headed person start expecting their own life to be, perfect too, like a nonstop highlight reel.
Yeah. The comparison trap, right? Yeah. It's like everyone else is, living in a rom-com when I'm stuck in a gritty documentary. But wait, doesn't this whole expectation thing also come from inside us too?
Yeah.
Our own hopes and dreams and stuff?
For sure. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. One study found that newlyweds, the people who are supposed to be the most in love, they tend to overestimate how happy they'll be in the future. They're so caught up in the romantic ideal that they don't even factor in the everyday challenges of actually building a life together. Mm-hmm. It kind of shows how even our best desires can warp our expectations.
So it's we've got these expectations coming from all these different places, and then bam, reality hits. Why does that gap feel so much worse than just a regular bummer?
Well, our brains, they really like consistency. When reality goes off script, off the script we've already written in our heads, it triggers this feeling, a deep sense of unease, almost like a mental alarm bell's going off. And that's when all those negative emotions start flooding in. Disappointment, frustration, maybe even anger and resentment.
It's our brains are screaming, wait, hold on. That's not how the movie's supposed to end. I was reading one of the sources for today's deep dive, and it had this amazing quote. It said that letting go of the expectation that people have to be perfect, it actually allows us to like them for who they really are.
Yeah.
It's so powerful when you think about it.
It really is. When we hold on to those unrealistic expectations, we just set ourselves up for disappointment. And everyone around us, too. And that's where this thing called cognitive dissonance comes into play.
Okay, that sounds super technical. Can you break it down for us non-psychology majors?
Okay, imagine you think you're a really good judge of character. But then let's say a close friend betrays your trust. That clash between what you believe and what actually happened, it creates this uncomfortable tension. And that's cognitive dissonance.
Oh, so it's our brains try to resolve that discomfort, even if it means, twisting the story or making excuses for the other person.
Exactly. You might downplay the betrayal or convince yourself that you just misread the situation. It's all about protecting our existing beliefs, even if they're not, doing us any favors anymore. But here's the thing. That discomfort, as yucky as it is, it can be a catalyst for growth.
Wait, really? So how does this expectation versus reality thing actually mess with our happiness?
Oh, it's sneaky. One way is that even positive expectations can make us less grateful for the things we do have. There was this study where they reminded people about how wealthy they were, and then, get this, they actually enjoyed chocolate less. It's wild. It's like focusing on what's missing can actually steal the joy from what's, like, right in front of us.
Whoa, that's crazy. So even good expectations can backfire. What else should we watch out for?
Well, we've talked about the whole social media comparison game, but it's worth repeating. Those curated feeds, they present such a distorted view of what's normal, and it can lead us to expect things that are honestly unrealistic. And then, when our regular lives don't measure up, it's easy to, feel inadequate.
Totally. It's like everyone else is living their best life, and we're stuck with laundry and bills and, traffic jams. But, sometimes I think the sabotage comes from inside us. You know what I mean? Like, we're the ones setting those impossible standards.
You're talking about self-sabotage, right? It's this sneaky way we set the bar so high that, well, we're basically guaranteed to fall short. It's like, imagine a student who procrastinates on a huge project, even though they know they can do it well. That's often driven by a fear of success, like a deep down belief that they don't deserve to achieve their goals.
Oh, wow. So instead of risking the pain of succeeding, they create this self-fulfilling prophecy of, like, failing. That's sad, but it kind of makes sense too. What about perfectionism? That seems like a huge part of this whole expectation thing.
Oh, yeah. Perfectionism, it's like the ultimate trap. It demands flawlessness, which is, of course, impossible. And so we end up in this cycle, this constant cycle of self-criticism, never feeling good enough no matter what we do.
It's like we're so busy chasing this ideal that doesn't even exist that we forget to just enjoy the journey, the messy, imperfect realness of it all. Okay, this is getting a little heavy. What can we actually do about this? How do we escape this expectation versus reality trap?
That's the question, isn't it? Luckily, we've got some answers. All the sources we looked at, they offer some really practical, actionable steps you can take right now to manage those expectations and get your happiness back on track.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me those actionable steps. What's step one?
The first step is honestly pretty simple, but super powerful. Self-awareness. Before you jump into anything, just take a sec to ask yourself, okay, what am I actually expecting here? Yep. What are my hopes? What are my fears? What am I assuming is going to happen?
Oh, okay. So before I give a big presentation at work, I should pause and think, all right, am I expecting to completely nail this and everyone's going to give me a standing ovation? Mm-hmm. Or am I, expecting to trip over my words and feel like a total imposter?
Exactly. Just bringing those expectations to the surface, just thinking about them, can help you figure out if they're realistic, if they're helpful, or if maybe, just maybe, they're setting you up for, a major disappointment spiral. And speaking of spirals, let's talk about a powerful antidote. Gratitude.
Ooh, yes, gratitude. Okay, I love this one. It's like magic happiness dust. But how does it, actually applied to managing expectations?
Instead of getting fixated on, what's missing or what went wrong, try shifting your focus to what you appreciate. Even if, even when things don't go exactly as planned. Remember that study we talked about where people were less into the chocolate when they were reminded about being wealthy?
Yeah.
Gratitude is the total opposite of that. It's about savoring the good stuff, no matter how small.
Oh, I see. So instead of being all, ugh, my vacation got rained out, it's more like, hey, I'm so grateful to be spending time with my family, even if we're stuck playing board games in the hotel room.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have to be these, huge life-changing things. Sometimes it's literally just being thankful for a warm cup of coffee on, I don't know, a chilly morning. It's about training your brain to focus on the good stuff instead of what you don't have.
Awesome. So we're practicing self-awareness. We're sprinkling gratitude everywhere. What's the next step in our expectation management, journey?
Well, we've talked about the social media comparison trap, so let's make this actionable, Set some boundaries with your online time. Unfollow those accounts that make you feel less than, and just limit your scrolling in general. Seriously, remember, you're only seeing this tiny curated sliver of people's lives.
Yeah, good point. It's like choosing to watch, I don't know, a feel-good comedy instead of a super intense drama that just leaves you emotionally drained. But what about those expectations we put on ourselves? Mm-hmm. Those, internal shoulds that can be way more sneaky than external pressure.
Ah, yes. The shoulds. Those are tough.
Yeah.
Those are often expectations that we've like internalized from society, from our families, even like from our own past experiences. They're like those little voices in our head that say, you should be thinner or richer or more successful or less sensitive. The list goes on and on.
Right. It's like we're carrying around this like invisible rule book, and it tells us exactly how to live, how to feel, how to be. And when we don't, when we inevitably fall short, we feel like total failures.
Got it. So the next step is to like challenge those shoulds. Ask yourself, okay, whose voice is this really? Is this actually aligned with my values, with what I want? Does this fit with my definition of like a good life?
Yeah.
And if not, give yourself permission to, rewrite the script.
It's not about like lowering our standards, but about making sure those standards are actually ours,
Yeah.
right? Not just some random rules we picked up who knows where.
Yeah.
So how else can we like break free from those internal shoulds?
Setting realistic goals is huge. When we set the bar crazy high, we're almost guaranteed to fall short. And that just leads to, disappointment and self-doubt.
Yeah, it's like starting a marathon without training,
Yeah.
and then expecting to like win the whole thing. You're going to hit a wall pretty fast.
Exactly. But being realistic doesn't mean we have to settle for like mediocrity. It's about taking a real honest look at like your resources, what you're capable of, and how much time you have. It's about finding that sweet spot between, ambition and what's actually doable.
So instead of, I'm going to write a best-selling novel in 3 months while also working a full-time job and training for a triathlon, it's more like, okay, I'm going to commit to writing for 1 hour every morning and see what happens.
Yeah, perfect example. And when you set smaller, more achievable goals, well, you start creating momentum, right? Those little wins, they build your confidence and they give you the motivation to keep going.
It's like climbing a mountain. You take it one step at a time. You might not see the summit right away, but each step you take, well, you're getting closer. And it feels way less scary than trying to jump to the top in one giant leap.
Exactly. And don't forget those small steps, those little wins, they're worth celebrating, They're proof that you're making progress, that you're actually capable of like achieving what you set out to do.
I'm noticing this theme of like focusing on the process, not just the outcome. It's like we get so fixated on the destination that we forget to, actually enjoy the journey, the scenery along the way.
That's a great observation. And that's where our next strategy comes in. Focusing on what you can control.
Yeah.
So much of life is, unpredictable. Trying to micromanage every little thing just leads to stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
But there are things you have control over. And
Yeah.
that's where you got to focus your energy.
So, like, I can't control if my boss loves my presentation or if my date thinks I'm charming, but I can control how prepared I am, how authentic I am, how I, like, show up in those situations.
Exactly. You can control your effort, your attitude, how willing you are to learn and grow from stuff. And when you start to focus on those things, the things inside you, you realize you have way more power than you thought.
It's like taking back the reins, even if we're not, driving the whole universe.
I like that. Exactly. It's about realizing that even in the middle of all the chaos, all the uncertainty, you still have choices. And even the small choices, well, they can have a ripple effect.
Okay, so we've got realistic goals. We're focusing on what we can control. What's next on our expectation-busting list?
Communication. Clear, honest, open communication. It's crucial for managing expectations, especially in relationships. So many times, unmet expectations happen because of miscommunication or because we haven't set clear boundaries.
So, like, if I'm hoping my partner will help out more around the house, but I never actually, say anything or talk about how we can split the chores more fairly, well, I'm just setting us both up for resentment, right?
Exactly. We can't expect people to read our minds right. We have to be clear about our needs, our expectations, our boundaries. And just as important, we have to be open to listening to their needs and boundaries too.
It's like creating this culture of like open and honest communication where everyone feels safe to say what they need.
You've got it. And, it's not always easy. Sometimes it means having those tough conversations or setting boundaries that might, disappoint someone. But honestly, being able to communicate clearly, that's the foundation for healthy, happy relationships.
This is all starting to feel like a puzzle. All these pieces fitting together. We've got self-awareness, gratitude, being smart about social media, realistic goals, focusing on what we can control, communications. Like we're building this toolkit, for managing expectations and creating a more balanced and joyful life.
And there's one more tool we need to add to that kit, one that's honestly often overlooked, but it's so important.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of different strategies, but you said there's one more tool for our expectation management toolkit. What's that final piece?
It's knowing when to ask for help. Sometimes that gap between expectations and reality, it can feel like, I don't know, too much, like we're drowning in disappointment or frustration.
So it's not like a weakness to reach out for help. It's not like admitting defeat or anything.
No, not at all. It actually takes a lot of courage to admit you need help and to reach out to someone who can, support you through those tough times.
It's like admitting we don't have all the answers. Like being willing to ask for directions when we're lost. So like, what are some signs that maybe is time to talk to someone?
Well, if you're feeling sad or anxious or hopeless a lot of the time, or if you're having trouble sleeping or concentrating or, doing the things you used to enjoy, those are all signs that maybe it's time to talk to a therapist or, a counselor.
So like, if those unmet expectations are starting to affect our whole life, not just, specific situations.
Exactly. And remember, mental health is just as important as physical health. There's zero shame in getting help when you need it. Therapy can be a safe space, a supportive place to, explore those unmet expectations, to learn some healthy coping mechanisms, and to create a life that's more resilient and fulfilling.
Ooh, I like that. It's like having a personal trainer, but for our minds, helping us build those emotional muscles to deal with all the ups and downs.
I like that analogy. And just like with a personal trainer, you got to find a therapist who's a good fit for you, right? Someone you feel comfortable with, who gets you and where you're coming from. Don't be afraid to, try out different therapists until you find one that feels right.
It's funny, as we've been talking about all this stuff, it's really hit me how connected all these strategies are. It's not about picking just one. It's about weaving them all together, you know, to create this more holistic approach to managing those expectations.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's about building self-awareness. It's about practicing gratitude. It's about having those healthy boundaries with social media, setting realistic goals, focusing on what we can actually control, communicating openly and honestly, and like we were just saying, knowing when to ask for help. It's multifaceted, and it's a journey, not a destination.
That's true. And just like with any journey, there are going to be detours, right? Unexpected roadblocks and times when we feel lost or discouraged. But that's all part of the process, right? It's often in those tough moments that we discover how strong we really are, how resilient.
You said it. And never forget, you are not alone on this journey. We all experience this, we all go through those times when our expectations and reality don't match up. It's a universal human thing. So let's all be kind to ourselves. Let's support each other. And let's celebrate this messy, beautiful, and ultimately fulfilling journey of life.
That's beautiful. And on that note, dear listener, we'll leave you with one final thought-provoking question to, ponder. If growth really does come from facing reality head on, what's one small expectation you can let go of today just to make space for something new, something maybe even better?
Remember, sometimes letting go is the bravest, most powerful choice we can make. Until next time, be well and keep exploring.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Deep Thoughts Podcast. I hope you found insights and inspiration to take with you on your journey of self-growth. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on new releases and exclusive content. See you next time, where we'll continue to help you grow and explore your full potential.